Hey everyone, Wolfie here. We got another project for Lil Red. We got to put a new pull cord in it. We kind of ran into an issue yesterday. Me and John and Jeremy hauled Lil Red back north for me and the dogs to head into the cabin, and well, bike didn't want to start with the electric start, which we expected. The battery's in pretty rough shape for its age and quality. In other words, it's dead. So using the pull starter to start the bike, and the pull cord broke. Now this is a fairly new pull cord, but it did spend a few months out. The bike was right out in the weather, so this is the broken end of the cord that came out. And I've started the disassembly here, so we'll get right onto that, and I'll show you the process for changing putting the new pull cord in, changing it out for a nice new one. We got brand new length of cord here for it, already the right length, so time to get to work and start on the dismantling part of this. Start with the easiest part. I already took the C-clip and brass washer off from the end of the shaft here. It's not too much of a pain to do. You've got your cover plate. This covers up the dogs and return springs for them. Check the camera real quick here. Yeah, you can see them in here. You've got 3 of these tiny little springs. They're like the thickness of like 2 hairs type thing. But you've got 3 of them to remove. I've knocked one down inside, but luckily that can come out. You've got your 3 dogs. And your center tension spring. Now, see if I can fish out that other little spring that I knocked down in here. Yeah, I have to wait a moment. Okay, now you want to make sure you turn the whole wheel the opposite way to where it would normally, like direction it would normally go. That takes all the tension off your main spring. And with any luck, you can lift this whole pulley out of here without the spring releasing. The spring releases, you're gonna find out real quick that you know swear words that you didn't think existed. Jeanette can vouch for me on that one. And it worked. More washer from under the spring. I figured out where my other little spring was stuck to the cover plate, didn't fall down inside. That's why I didn't see it. So here's your pulley. Got the other half of the cord there. Now, this actually goes into this center section right here. This is possible to do without taking this out, but it's just a lot easier to work with this way. Sometimes. There's the broken section of cord. now out of the way. Now something we're going to do here is move this completely out of here so we do not have to worry about knocking it off and knocking that spring loose. So here's the pulley. Now for some reason something is catching and wearing at that rope, because that's a pretty brand new rope that was in there. Shouldn't have to put a new pull cord in every like 6 months. So we're gonna take a good look at things here. And what I might do, seriously considering it, is taking the Dremel and cleaning up the edge of that hole. But I think this spot here could be one of the culprits. That notch is put in the pulley here. You might be able to make it out fairly well. This is put in for while you're doing your reassembly. It's a very important spot. So I may have to clean up the edges to that, because that's, well, plain and simple, it's thin metal, it's got an edge to it. I don't feel any other burrs or anything on this. And let's see which side has the hole in it here. So yeah, it's catching somewhere. It's the edge of the pulley that's wearing at this thing. So I'm going to have to figure something out for this. But for now, I'm going to get to work at cleaning this all up with the Dremel and see what I can figure out. Okay, time to start the reassembly. We figured out the issue by doing a little bit of a comparison. And what's happening is where the rope goes through the pulley here, just happens to line up perfect to this top edge on the pulley. Now, there's not really anything that can be done about this like too easily. We got the new cord on, and we're gonna start the reassembly process, which, especially at first, you gotta be just as careful as you were with the taking it apart. Make sure your pull cord's wrapped tight, and so it can't tangle very easily. And stuff that in there for a moment. And you gently slide it back down over its shaft here. And that's the sound you want to hear right there. Click down into place, and then it goes right down. And starts to catch on that spring. Make sure your rope stays nice and snug in there and up through that notch that I showed you in the pulley. And you just start turning it very carefully. As you can see, it's now under very small amount of tension on the spring. So we're going to start our reassembly in the center section. Move my screwdrivers here out of the way, pliers, and I got to get my tube of grease off the other table. Now, a good lithium grease is perfect for this. Now I cheat with these. I just open the back end and steal the grease out of it that way. Take a screwdriver, small amount of grease. This stuff really stinks. All around the shaft here. Doesn't hurt to have some of this underneath the pulley as well. It's got a good amount still in there from the previous time that I took it apart in the fall. Okay, that's that done. Greased. Cap back on the tube of grease. Back in its bag, all sealed up. Set that under here for now. Out of the way. Now, your first washer in. Now these are keyed. They've got, the shaft has a flat edge on one side, so the washers only go on in one way. Return spring. Now the fun part, your dogs. Each dog has a small little hole in it. So you set them in place, put them in so they're tilted inwards against the pulley. Set each of them in place. I'm going to note here too, each one has a rounded edge and a square edge. Square edges go up, rounded edges down. Also doesn't hurt to have, I've got some on my fingers here, thin layer of grease on them, very thin layer. They've got to sit in there nice and snug. And you start with your return springs. Now, use a paper towel here for background. This is the shape of them. And each one has a small little bent tip to it on each end. And you take them and you set the bent little tips into the holes in each, side by side on the dogs. And you repeat the process for each set. They can be a bit of a nuisance to line up and to keep lined up. And spring number 3. Easiest way I found is you get one end in, set your finger on it, hold it in place, and then adjust the other end of the spring till it pops into place. Now, that's done. Now, the plate, as you can see, it's got notches where each dog goes. To fit down over them. Once again, this, you've got to force it down because of the pressure spring. So you hold that down, find your other brass washer, and once again, because of the little flat surface on one side of the shaft, it only goes in one direction. Now the fun part, the C-clip. This part is a royal pain to do, but once you get it started, she goes pretty quick. Like, pops right on there. And one of the hard parts on this C-clip is the fact that when you first start to hook it up, it lines up perfect to the edge of the brass washer. So it's hard to get a screwdriver to grab just the edge of the clip. And it's in place. Okay. So now you've got a nice new pull cord in here. All the pressure springs are greased. Everything's set up good. Dogs open and return. And here's where the fun begins. Keep your extra pull cord out of the way. That's the part. This section is the part that's going to come up through and your handle will be on. Keep that tucked in good and tight in that notch in the pulley. And you start turning your whole pulley. Which you gotta put. You don't want too much pressure on it, but you want enough that it's going to be able to pull itself back easily. When you're working the pull starter. Now, that should be lots. You're looking at probably about 10 turns total. Now, you feed, take your loose end of the rope, make sure that your notch is pointed to where your pull starter handle is going to be. And while holding the pulley, you feed your rope up through and it pops out of the notch on the pulley. So you've now got a good working pull starter. Now, one of the easiest parts of the whole thing, you just feed it up through your handle. So you can now use the rope to hold tension on the pulley. So you've sort of got two hands to work with. Feed it up through. Make sure you got a good grip on it. Pull it out. Put a really good knot in it. Don't put the knot right at the end of the rope. Leave a good tail out. Just one single knot is all it takes. Tuck that into the top of your handle. And there you have it. You've now got a usable pull starter again. So yeah, most of it, especially the older Honda motors from the 80s and even into the early 90s and back as far as the mid to late 70s, all the Honda pull starters are pretty much identical in the way they're built. Some of the parts will be slightly different as they made their adjustments and improvements on stuff. But for the most part, that's the exact procedure for changing out your pull cord. Put a new one in. Got a nice new white beautiful pull cord on there. That won't last long. But there we have it. It's new pull cord installed in a 1983 Honda 3-wheeler 200. They had the 185s and 250s. Still all the same part. Just different top ends in the motor. But finished. Now to get it put back on the bike and see if it'll start the bike. Okay, Little Red's got its new pull cord, and I guess she's all fixed up and ready to go again. Like I mentioned, the battery is pooched, so I'll have to do something about that, and I guess get a new battery at some point. But for now, I've got the pull starter, so all set. Thanks a lot for watching, everyone. We'll talk to you all soon. Everyone have a great day. And it works. But as you can see, we've got a little bit too much free play there. Now there's two ways you can adjust that. You can either just pull the cord out and tie the knot lower, or you can actually pull the pull starter off and give it the whole thing. You have to take the handle right off again, bring the cord down through, give the pulley a few more turns. I'm going to opt for just shortening the cord down some and go from there. Hopefully that won't be a problem. But yeah, there we go. Finished pull starter, new cord, starts the bike. That's what matters.